Much. Good salute to the police and the Border Patrol. Thank you so much. I'm Laura Ingraham. This is the Ingraham Angle from Washington tonight. Another jam-packed news day and night for us. Will be on every angle. We have every element of this Jussie Smollett saga covered for you. Chicago PD lighting into him earlier this morning. Former police superintendent Gary McCarthy and current president of the Chicago Police Union, Kevin Ingraham, are both here to react. You don't want to miss that. Plus, could any lawyer on earth develop a successful defense for Smollett? Alan Dershowitz is here with his thoughts on that. Plus, who are the media and the political arsonists who fan the Smollett flames? We're going to name names. Oh yes, later in the show. But first, the false allure of victimology. That's the focus of tonight's angle. After seeing your really strong reactions to last night's show about how universities are breeding grounds for victimhood and manufactured anger, we thought it was important to expand on this theme tonight. And given today's developments on a number of stories, this conversation we're going to have on the Ingraham Angle tonight is more important than ever. The superintendent of the Chicago Police was visibly, understandably outraged by what his department and the community has endured because of Jussie Smollett's fabricated hate crime.
But when we discovered the actual motive, quite frankly, it pissed everybody off, because we have to invest valuable resources. A lot of what I want you all to really understand is when you all put things out there into the universe that's not actual facts, then it causes us to have to chase all that stuff down. Those are resources and time spent that we'll never get back.
Oh, well, that's all well and good, I guess, but poor Jussie. Making a boatload of money per year, it looks like he was driven to this by his warped view of celebrity income inequality.
This announcement today recognizes that Empire actor Jussie Smollett took advantage of the pain and anger of racism to promote his career. And why? This stunt was orchestrated by Smollett because he was dissatisfied with his salary.
Now, what drove Smollett, a supporting actor on the Fox show Empire, to think that this stunt, this victim narrative that he'd been assaulted by MAGA hat-wearing thugs, would get him a pay raise? Well, probably because he had seen others profit from the same routine and never get penalized. There has been a long line of celebrity victims in recent years, people known only for their self-proclaimed victimhood. There was Colin Kaepernick, who after staging his kneeling protests and disrupting the entire sport of football, claimed he was being victimized by NFL owners who were keeping him from playing just because of his activism.
Believe in something, even if it means sacrificing everything. So don't ask if your dreams are crazy. Ask if they're crazy enough.
Well, of course, he got a multi-million-dollar Nike contract and a hefty NFL settlement out of the whole deal. So you see, victimhood pays. And then, of course, there was Christine Blasey Ford. Like Smollett, Ford turned on the drama for the cameras. And even when her charges didn't hold water, no substantiation, she was still invited by Sports Illustrated to be an awards presenter before the glitterati.
I am honored to speak with you from afar about a woman I admire so much. Rachel Den Hollander, I am in awe of you, and I will always be inspired by you.
Now, it's obvious for anyone capable of objective thought, if you're a liberal and you have an outrageous claim that implicates conservatives or President Trump, what do they all stand for? Well, you'll probably get national attention. You'll get high-profile interviews. You'll be on magazine covers. And, of course, you'll get a lot of money. Blasey Ford made out like Batman, raking in over $800,000 via a GoFundMe account. It was all for her security. And for a politically active, Trump-hating minor celebrity like Jussie Smollett, the lesson was learned. Victimhood pays, and often handsomely. Crying racism would be his ticket to fame and fortune. Heck, it beats playing second fiddle to Taraji Henson on a show whose ratings were already on the downslope.
Get out. Who do you think you're talking to?
So he decided to write his own new role, where the character would be someone important, a moral crusader on a mission to warn the whole country about the dangers of Trump. Now, the absurd details of this phony attack confirmed all of the worst, most toxic of left-wing caricatures of Trump followers. That they're this new breed of Klansmen waiting around the corner of every major city to assault and lynch black and gay liberals. So suddenly it was like 1955 in Birmingham all over again, kind of like a really bad Spike Lee film or something. And then when the fantasy came crashing down and police began to discover the lies, the real truth, well, the pair of brothers buying supplies, those Nigerian brothers on the coordinated phone calls, the evidence was overwhelming that Smollett had committed a poisonous fraud on America. So naturally, Smollett's media cooperators blamed conservatives.
We're going to see conservative media probably play this up a bit.
Sean Hannity's going to eat Jussie Smollett's lunch every single second. Tucker Carlson is going to eat Jussie Smollett's lunch every single second.
President of the United States.
The President of the United States is going to eat his lunch.
Unreal. So it's like heads they win, tails we lose. Trump supporters are guilty no matter what. No matter how egregious the underlying fraud. Doesn't matter. And it should not surprise any of us that today's Democrats cling to this victimhood narrative with a political death grip. After all, what do they have to do without it? You know, with their lame track record, how can they possibly convince African Americans that they're going to do better, be better off, and they're going to have their wages lifted up better, or they're going to have their neighborhoods safer, cartels are going to be kept out of their neighborhoods, gang members, MS-13 are going to be out of their communities. The Democrats are going to somehow be better at Trump at creating jobs? The answer is they can't argue any of that because they have no substantive arguments. But they can, and they do, sell victimhood. And for that, they have a lot of buyers. This is how Kanye West put it about a year ago in a pair of tweets. He said there was a time when slavery was the trend, and apparently that time is still upon us. But now, it's a mentality. Then he wrote, self-victimization is a disease. Well, you bet it is. Because when any of us cling to victimhood, we give away our power to solve problems and to better ourselves the old-fashioned way. It's through something called hard work. And it's important to understand the left strategy here. They'll use fabricated tales of victimization to divert attention from other inconvenient truths. Now, remember, it was Smollett who crashed in and took the focus off of Virginia Governor Ralph Blackface Northam. Of course, and his Lieutenant Governor, Justin Fairfax, who is accused by at least 2 women of sexual abuse. Boy, that Virginia story faded fast, didn't it? And now that Smollett's anti-Trump drama has blown up, the media has jumped on the story of that whack job Coast Guard lieutenant who wanted to murder Democrat politicians.
This is now the second time that we know about, from the pipe bombs to yesterday. It's exactly what Donald Trump is encouraging.
Words are cheap to him, but they have cost elsewhere. You look at this man, and he's hearing that the media is the enemy of the people.
We all know the recent history of violence propelled in some part by the president's rhetoric.
Again, this is so predictable, it's almost boring. But notice that when conservatives are truly victimized, physically attacked, when conservatives are actually targeted and shot for their political beliefs, like Congressman Steve Scalise, the media, they have no time for that. It's as if it never happened. In fact, Nancy Pelosi admonished Republicans against laying blame on Democrats for that attack.
I don't even want to go into the President of the United States, but in terms of some of the language that he has used, when you have all the assaults that are made on Hillary Clinton, for them to be so sanctimonious is something that it didn't used to be this way. Somewhere in the 90s, Republicans decided on politics of personal destruction as they went after the Clintons, and that is the provenance of it, and that's what has continued.
Well, and despite the shooter's devotion for Bernie Sanders, conservatives didn't rush in to connect the Vermont senator to the shooting, nor did they try to link Smollett's criminal actions to his political heroes, Barack Obama and Maxine Waters, because to link them would be unfair, and it would be just plain stupid. But many anti-Trump partisans in the media felt obligated to connect Donald Trump and his supporters to a story that was ludicrous from the get-go.
What he said happened to him sort of fit in with a not a narrative, but a reality for a lot of people in this country since President Trump was inaugurated.
You think about what just happened to Jussie Smollett in Chicago. Unfortunately, we have racism germinating from the White House.
If you are in a position of power and you hate people and you want to cause suffering to them, what do you think is going to happen? And people are going to be beaten on the street.
Well, the modern Democratic movement has abandoned the optimism and the idealism of John F. Kennedy, people like Patrick J. Moynihan. And now its activist core peddles nonstop anger and resentment. So in a decade, just a short decade, they've gone from hope and change to hate and rage. And when 2020 comes around, I somehow doubt the message of "you're a victim" will beat "let's be victorious." And that's the angle. Joining me now with reaction is Gary McCarthy, former Chicago police superintendent and current candidate for Chicago mayor. And also with me, Kevin Graham, Chicago Fraternal Order of Police president. Kevin, watching all of this play out over the last few days, I've been dying to talk to you. I know my viewers are dying to hear your perspective. How does it all make you feel?
You know, it's unfortunate that we expended a large amount of resources in the Chicago Police Department to try and uncover a hoax that was played
to this particular incident.
Gary had a one-year-old child shot just the day before yesterday, still an unacceptably high unsolved murder rate, attrition in the police force. Your thoughts on what the superintendent just said there?
Well, first of all, I think that we really need to put this issue in perspective. This was a reckless act that thankfully nobody got hurt from. You have to understand the history of Chicago and the redlining and the disinvestment in African-American neighborhoods that's gone on here for decades, and the anger that exists here and the polarization, the racial polarization that we have here. You put that together with the Laquan McDonald incident coming out of it, the Jason Van Dyke conviction. We have serious racial problems here. And this is akin to pouring gasoline on some burnt coals and hoping that they don't go on fire. This incident could have turned into something really terrible for this city. It's an assault on the city. He needs to be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law. The city should be filing a lawsuit to recoup the money that we lost.
Right.
With the expenditures that the CPD put into it. And by the way, those same detectives who are always getting their butts kicked in the press for low clearance rates did an exceptional job here, and they need to be complimented for it.
Absolutely. Gary, did I just hear what you said? That the state
place of her at parties at the Oscars, even as we speak. So the bottom line is, she had an obligation to be here. She was elected to do her job. And when she comes up with the biggest political football that she's going to have as an African-American prosecutor, she fumbles it and she runs away.
So
Absolutely
you're saying this was no
unacceptable.
reason. So wait a second. You're saying there was no reason for her recusal. That was all just a ruse to go to the Oscars?
I believe it's a ruse. It's absolutely a ruse when she says that.
I can't establish that. I don't want.
She made a reference.
Okay, well, she made a reference. I can't establish that tonight. I don't want to jump. I don't want to do what people did in the early part of this case. But that's certainly an interesting assumption. Well, we'll see whether that's true. All right, gentlemen, what would justice actually require in this case? Well, Chicago PD Superintendent Eddie Johnson had this suggestion today.
Absolute justice would be an apology to this city that he smeared, admitting what he did, and then be man enough to offer what he should offer up in terms of all the resources that were put into this.
Well, Kevin, Smollett's legal team is not doing this. Tonight, they're doubling down, saying, today we will. Apology there, Kevin. Did the cops skip due process?
Nope. No, and we've witnessed that they've gone after the police on many occasions when it's unjust, but here there is an overwhelming amount of evidence that he did exactly what he said he did. He has gone out and said, oh, I was jumped, and quite frankly, the evidence doesn't pan out that way. He needs to fess up to what he did. He also needs to pay back the city, and he needs to apologize because the detectives in this city worked extremely hard to try and find this.
Gentlemen, I hesitate to, thank you very much. He's not doing any of that. He's doubling down. It's the police that is at fault here. It's outrageous. By the way, there were a lot of bad actors during the whole Smollett affair, and some still. Now, let's start with some of the politicians. We're going to name names here. There were the ugly attempts at pure political politics, racial politics, from 2020 contenders. Kirsten Gillibrand, in a still-standing tweet from 3 weeks back, said, horribly, it's the latest of too many hate crimes against LGBTQ people and people of color. Kamala Harris said this was an attempted modern-day lynching. Cory Booker used identical language. The vicious attack was an attempted modern-day lynching. Well, when the facts started unraveling, though, Booker and Harris demanded that we wait for the facts.
The information is still coming out. I'm going to withhold until all the information actually comes out.
Okay, so I will say this about that case. I think that the facts are still unfolding.
Wow, that's not something they didn't practice in this case, though, and certainly not with Brett Kavanaugh. Then there are those who deleted their tweets, their initial tweets, knowing that they won't be pressed by a compliant, cooperating media, like House Intel Chair Adam Schiff. He said, we pray for your speedy recovery, Jesse, and reject this act of hatred and bigotry. He lives in CNN and MSNBC green rooms, so he shouldn't be too hard to get a clarification from, right? Well, no luck so far from the media firefighters. Well, the most powerful politician in the Democratic Party, Speaker Nancy Pelosi, she wrote in a since-deleted tweet, the racist, homophobic attack on Smollett is an affront to our humanity. Well, the only affront to our humanity is the media apparatus that will circle the wagons to protect. Then they're revealed to having just chased another hoax. They still reach the wrong conclusions. Here's Don Lemon.
A lot of people say, well, how could you have believed this story from the beginning?
Because it happens.
Exactly.
This is a Jackie Robinson against homophobia in the black community, an icon, a beloved icon.
Jackie Robinson? What? Well, there are many other bad actors in this case, far too numerous to name in a broadcast relegated to just 1 hour. The more alarming takeaway is this. The Smollett case happened just 1 week after the Covington Catholic smear fell apart. And if these same politicians, celebrities, and media figures couldn't learn their lesson in that moment, well, what chance do you think they have for the next inevitable hoax? Coming up, the prosecutor charging Smollett laid out a pretty damning case against him earlier today. So how can he possibly build a defense? Alan Dershowitz with the answer to that next.
The Ingraham Angle is brought to you by One A Day Women's.
Turn up your swagger game with One A Day gummies. One serving, once a day, with nutrients that support 6 vital functions and 1 healthy you. That's the power of One A Day.
Candace stated that he wanted them to appear to attack him. Defendant Smollett also stated he wanted the brothers to catch his attention by calling him an Empire F, Empire N. Defendant Smollett also included that he wanted Ola to place a rope around his neck, pour gasoline on him, and yell, "This is MAGA country."
The Cook County Prosecutor's Office legal history in the OJ case. Offenses and legal history in the OJ case.
are as the police say they are, if actually payments were made and a plan was hatched to put a rope around the neck and a police report was filed, then we have a potential for a serious crime. I'm surprised that they charge them only with some kind of disturbing the peace. That doesn't sound like this is what happened here. So we have to wait and see. Good,
but Alan, even as a defense attorney, Alan, even as a defense attorney, I was a criminal defense attorney too. But should this matter here? I mean, to me, given the toxicity of the charges, given the heat that is on Chicago and the race relations, we just heard two very well-respected former superintendent of Chicago PD, current Fraternal Order Police president. This is hot there. So should it just be like we're hearing tonight? Well, he'll just get probation. Maybe he'll go out and get just be probation. It's not going to be a big deal. To me, that just seems ridiculous.
Look, I agree with you. I agree with you. We have to look at the context. We have to look at the pressures on the city. And in the end, I do think a case like this, if the evidence is as overwhelming as it looks like it is, there'll probably be some kind of a plea bargain, some kind of a deal. He'll probably admit it and apologize and do some community service. But I do think, I agree with you, I think people who make false reports ought to go to jail. I think, in the Bible, if you falsely accuse somebody, you get the penalty that the person would have gotten had the accusation.
Crime. Let's watch.
I just wish that the families of gun violence in this city got this much attention, because that's who really deserves the amount of attention that we're giving to this particular incident.
Gary had a 1-year-old child shot just the day before yesterday. Still an unacceptably high unsolved murder rate. Attrition in the police force. Your thoughts on what the superintendent just said there?
Well, first of all, I think that we really need to put this issue in perspective. This was a reckless act that thankfully nobody got hurt from. You have to understand the history of Chicago and the redlining and the disinvestment in African-American neighborhoods that's gone on here for decades, and the anger that exists here and the polarization, the racial polarization that we have here. You put that together with the Laquan McDonald incident, coming out of it, the Jason Van Dyke conviction. We have serious racial problems here, and this is akin to pouring gasoline.
Yesterday or the day before, and I thought it made a lot of sense. So this is a police department that has had some issues.
I think there are issues with the Chicago Police Department as a general proposition, whether or not they are alleged to have treated people of color fairly, whether or not they are capable of doing an investigation without any difficult issues arising.
So now it's just going to be the Chicago PD is corrupt, so Jesse's innocent. I love that one, too.
Well, it's more than corrupt. What the suggestion is they're racist, and I don't know how that cut.
It's great to have you on. Bruce, let's start with you.
Thanks for having me.
What's up?
What's happening,
Gary?
But this is wild. So we got Jesse makes $125K a year, by the way.
Yeah.
The police make $48K a year, but it's like, Bruce, there's not enough money, so you got to get a couple guys to come tackle
you. But you know what, Laura, this kind of keeps playing into the same old thing. Henry and I are talking about this in the green room, about how the left always tries to portray black folks like us that are to intimidate us. I've always said this is the biggest voter suppression in the land, the way the left, they'll put, this is another example to scare the big boogeyman of MAGA. Don't go over there. They're bad people, etc. But the disheartening part of it more than anything, Laura, is we've had some issues in the past. We've come a long way. Look at the president tonight. Oh my God, tonight he was so on fire. Oh my God.
We got some
President Trump, you were killing it tonight. He was so excited. We had the African American History Month. He was celebrating. Packed jam room, screaming loud. He was so happy the fact that we have the lowest black unemployment. We have all these great initiatives, the $100 billion going into opportunity zones, all this positive press, and then here we go. Jesse,
but that's the reason, though, Henry. Isn't that precisely why they're selling this you're oppressed, you're a victim, watch out for the guys with the red hats, because they're coming for you. I mean, it is the worst kind of scare tactic, but they're doing it precisely because things are getting better.
Well, first of all, I really don't even understand
why so many people hate black people, well, people that look like me and him, hate this president. Because this man has done more than any other president has done for people that look like me and him than ever. I wear the MAGA hat wherever I go. I walk around St. Louis with my Go Trump or Cry t-shirts on, because either you're going to go Trump or you're going to cry. and this thing about what's his name, Jussie? Lord have mercy. Look, Jussie just need to go ahead and sit down somewhere in his cell, get some people, put some money on his books, and, you know, fix him some ramen noodles and something, and then he'll really be part of, you know, what people...
What is going on here? By the way, I gotta share something with you, because I know both of you are very big Elizabeth Warren fans, but she kind of changed the subject away from Jussie to how the Democrats are going to help the African American community, something that Trump apparently won't do. Let's watch. It's a full screen. Sorry about that. She says, we must confront the dark history of slavery and government-sanctioned discrimination in this country that has had many consequences. She continues, including undermining the ability of black families to build wealth in America for generations. We need systematic structural changes to address that. And she's talking about reparations. Write a check. Write a check.
She talking about the Democrats. That's what the Democrats are doing to her. That's why we, as people that look like me and him, are in the position that we're in. It's because of the Democrats. I'm trying to tell you right now, Laura. Look, Donald Trump is the most pro, and this is a quote from my friend Pastor Darrell Scott, who I'll be working with, him and Kareem, on the Urban Revitalization Coalition. And when they come to St. Louis, I had to say that real quick.
I'm coming. You got that out fast, man.
Pastor Darrell Scott said that Donald Trump is the most pro-black president that we have ever seen in our lifetime.
They're petrified. They are petrified of Donald Trump. Stealing even 5% of the black vote away. Kanye West, I think it was Kanye West, said, get off that plantation. Is he right? He said, don't stay on that Democrat plantation.
You know, here we go again. Voter suppression. Let's throw the big bag boogeyman into the room and intimidate us. Laura, this is serious stuff. You know, at the end of the day, you know, President Trump is going to be the champion that guys that look like us, they're going to build generational wealth.
Yes,
like
sir.
America.
You better say it.
Like it's never been done before. Like myself, I'm a 27-year business owner in Atlanta. There's many guys like me, many of us around the country that want that opportunity. This president, and I co-sign with Pastor Scott, he will be the best, is the best president.
Well, you better say
the history.
Okay, guys.
History.
All right, two words. Victimhood. What do you tell the African-American kid out there watching? Maybe he's a 20-year-old watching. When they say you're a victim, you say to him,
that's a lie.
Bruce?
Lie. I ditto that. Exactly.
That's what I say. I say that's a lie. You're not a victim.
The numbers don't lie. I always say don't get caught up in the emotions, and I say this on I've been on all these other networks, and I always say this for black America, don't get caught up in the emotions.
But what about the S-hole countries comment, and what about, well, you know, it's always,
that's emotion. That don't pay bills. That don't build businesses. That doesn't do anything except keep this junk going that has no substance in black America.
President Trump ain't scared. I say that, you know, he bought that life. He got that.
All right,
that's all. You know,
I need one of I need one of those shirts. Okay? I want one of those.
For real? You want one for real?
You gotta get.
That's what's up, man.
I'm hanging out with them after the show. Okay, I'm hanging out with them.
Right on, Laura.
This is too staid. I want to just do a show with you.
Let's go out somewhere.
All right, gentlemen. Thanks.
Thanks, baby.
All right, up next, violent attack. It doesn't bother me when he says baby either. It doesn't bother me at all. Other people be offended. I'm like, bring it. All right, violent attacks on conservative students on college campuses are getting out of control. Coming up, a debate on the roots of victimhood, like we saw with Jussie Smollett. Does it begin in academia? That's next. It's time to get your free trial of Fox Nation. It's our new streaming service that's a perfect complement to the Fox News channel. Fox Nation features exclusive shows from me, plus all your favorite Fox News personalities. Now here's a preview of the shocking story of Susan Smith, part 1. Check it out.
Your mama loves you so much, and your daddy, this whole family love you so much.
To Michael and Alex, me and your mother are doing everything we can to get you home.
We have no reason to believe it's anything other than what it's reported to be.
I just feel in my heart that you're okay.
I don't think people bought her tone of voice.
Have they spoken to you about taking polygraphs?
I don't know. We'd rather not comment about that right now.
There was no question. The response is what we call indicative of deception.
It just became apparent to us that Susan Smith's story did not really be truthful.
Lots of investment firms talk
tonight that he is still a victim. But where does this cry for attention come from? Andy Ngo, he summed it up perfectly in the National Review a couple of days ago, writing, because of the mainstreaming of academia's victimhood culture, we're now in a place where we place more value on being a victim than on being heroic, charitable, or even kind. Victims or victim groups high on intersectionality points are supposed to be coveted and believed unreservedly. But there's something more nefarious happening, do you think, on college campuses? Back in March of 2016, then candidate Donald Trump had to cancel a rally at the University of Illinois because of violent protests and other threats. And in March 2017, conservative Charles Murray and his group were literally attacked at Middlebury College. Glad I didn't go there. A professor was injured in that melee. And just this week at the University of California, Berkeley, a Turning Point USA recruiter was brutally attacked. We don't know what happened before this video, but it doesn't look good.
Jesus Christ. What?
Oh! You could hear that. If you've ever been punched in the face, you know how much that hurts. Well, we reached out to the university, and police say they're investigating the incident. Joining me now is Charlie Kirk, founder and president of the group that was attacked and author of Campus Battlefield. Also with me, American University student and activist Angelo Cacciaro. Is that right? Am I getting that right? Cacciaro. I'm so sorry. Charlie, how often do these types of attacks happen against conservatives?
Well, far too often, and this one was one of the more brutal ones we've seen recently. And the narrative in the media in the last couple of weeks, but before the facts came out with the Smollett case, is he's a victim and we cannot question it. This is real victimhood. I mean, this is a student that was assaulted in the public square because he was tabling and recruiting for conservative values for our Turning Point USA chapter at UC Berkeley, which ironically was the original birthplace of the free speech movement, 30 or 40 years ago. But unfortunately, college campuses have not become safe places for conservatives.
There's a picture of him, by the way, in the middle. How have they not found him yet? And that's the guy he attacked. They kind of look like the same person, actually. That's the guy who attacked. He was on Hannity tonight. But there he is. Okay, anyone knows this guy? Call the authorities. Because the university, the provost, I believe, the chancellor put out a statement saying this is unacceptable. We do not allow this. Angelo, this is what Donald Trump Jr., he weighed in on this. He said, when a liberal like Jesse cries wolf and fakes an attack, he receives unmatched coverage, sympathy, and support, creating a tsunami of attention. When a conservative student literally gets punched in the face and is caught on video, it barely makes a ripple. Angelo.
Well, here's the thing with that is that when this story first came out with Jussie Smollett, our first impression was that this was a legitimate hate crime incident. And the reality is that since President Trump has taken office, hate crimes have risen 17%. That's numbers from the FBI's own statistics. So the reality here is that while Mr. Smollett may have fabricated this one incident, the reality is that there are actual hate crimes on the rise.
Angelo, that I believe is because more agencies are now reporting hate crimes. That's why that number seems a lot higher than it was previously, because now you have more inputs. Before, those agencies weren't reporting all into the national database for hate crimes. But any hate crime is a problem, and I agree with you. We don't want any hate crimes. But we're talking about the disparate coverage. And, I mean, American University, George Washington University, Catholic University, Georgetown, all great schools right in this area. A conservative wearing a Make America Great Again hat on those campuses would be kind of risking it. That's a fact. Would be risking it. And I know a lot of great kids who go to Georgetown. It's a great school, great people, but they'd be risking it, wouldn't they?
I don't think that's true. I don't think that's true. We actually just recently
I used to live right near AU. I know it well. Good kids, but there's a lot of...
We just recently had an incident where a student came through our cafeteria wearing a Confederate flag hoodie. Didn't go to school there, wasn't a student, had no threats of violence against him, but we did have some students who were uncomfortable with it, and they talked to the security there and asked them if they could do anything about it. They didn't end up doing anything about it.
Yeah, well, that's good.
So this video, which is horrifying, if the attacker was wearing a Make America Great Again hat, this is all we would be talking about. It would be talking about right into the narrative.
Well, imagine if a kid like Jussie was hit in the face.
No.
Like hit in the face, like a kid hit in the face by someone who was a conservative kid, a college Republican. Angelo, come on, you know, you're a smart guy. Angelo, I'm trying to get Angelo to be a conservative. I'm going to win him over, okay? I'm going to win this kid over.
You will leave the left before we're done.
I'm going to win Angelo over. He's too fun and he's too smart. I know you are, but you know there's a double standard on that. Come on. You know, you can't imagine. You can't be saying college campuses are balanced today. They're not.
Here's what the double standard is. The double standard, the difference here is that with the incident with Jussie Smollett, when we believe that it was an actual incident, you're talking about, you know, an attack against somebody who's a member of a historically marginalized group. He's a person of color.
Did you believe it when you heard it? Did you actually believe it?
I did believe it, yeah, because...
Yeah, have you ever been to that neighborhood in Chicago?
Streeterville.
Who the heck walks through Streeterville
Not MAGA
2 in
country.
the morning with MAGA? I mean, it was ludicrous on its face. We got people in the other room who were like, Laura, I didn't believe that for 2 seconds. People of color here.
Well, one of the points you're talking about is this culture of victimhood, but the real toxic culture here is what's coming from this president. It's his dark vision for America and this idea that if you're...
He was having a great time today.
Wow.
He was having a great time tonight, Black History Month. It was oversubscribed. We had 300 people there, Charlie?
Yeah,
people couldn't get in because it was overpacked. I mean, I think Democrats want to hold on to this domination, political domination of one group. I think their time is up. I think people are now thinking for themselves. I think that's a good thing.
Super quick. I've been doing this for 6 years now, visited hundreds of campuses. It's only liberals that try to kick me off campus. I mean, we never try to disinvite leftist speakers and they come on campus. It is completely slanted in one direction. They're afraid of other ideas.
Angelo, I want you back. I'm going to bring you over. You're going to become a conservative. Angelo's too smart to be. Otherwise, isn't that, I shouldn't say that. You can think for yourself. Be whatever you want. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Up next, Judge Laura takes the bench. A park advocacy group filed a lawsuit in Chicago that could jeopardize the construction of Barack Obama's presidential center. But who has the legal upper hand? Well, that debate and my gavel next.
We know what it feels.
It's time for the arbiter. All right, where two attorneys argue a case and I, Judge Laura, make the final ruling. Now, joining me now are attorneys Andrew Stoltman and Robin Nunn. All right, here are the rules in the Court of Ingraham. Each attorney will have 30 seconds to lay out his or her case, followed by a rebuttal. You both get to rebut the other. Now, if the judge needs more information, each of you will have an additional 30 seconds to explain, and then I'm going to ask some questions. In the end, I will make my ruling. It cannot be appealed. And on the docket tonight, the fight for former President Obama's presidential library. This week, a federal judge allowing a lawsuit filed by a park advocacy group to go forward that, if successful, would prohibit the 20-acre exhibit to be built near Lake Michigan. So, Andrew, you're a Chicago-based attorney. You have 30 seconds for your opening. Let's get 30 seconds up on the clock, guys. The court is now in session. Andrew.
Look, it's real simple. Public land is for public purposes. And what we can't do is we can't have a $500 million vanity project, even for a former president, and take land from the public and give it to a private person. We just can't do it. It's a bad decision. What would people say in 2 years from now if President Trump would want to take 20 acres in Central Park and put his presidential library on it? Everybody would say that's lunacy.
All right, Robin. Just made it under the wire, Andrew. Robin, your case.
Well, whether you agree with Obama's politics or not, the law is clear on this. And the city has the right to use public lands for whatever it wants, including for the Obama Presidential Center. There has not been a takings. This is obviously in the public good. And the people of Chicago are excited about it. As an African American and a former resident of Chicago and a graduate of the University of Chicago Law School, this is clearly a good decision and something that will uplift the people of Chicago, including many folks.
All right, my affinity and love for University of Chicago Law School aside, Andrew still gets to rebut you. Andrew.
Yeah, I mean, look, that's silly. Nobody's saying that President Obama shouldn't get the land. It just shouldn't be parkland. There are 160,000 acres of land in Chicago. 1% are public land, public acres. Put it on the 99%.
Yeah, but Andrew,
it's simple.
Andrew, but this was transferred. This was land that was transferred to the city by the Park Commission.
For $100 for 99 years. That's a classic Chicago sweetheart deal. It's improper, it's wrong, and it shouldn't go through.
All right, Robin, I want to read something. This is from the Chicago Sun-Times, okay? This was an editorial from 2 days ago. A small circle of Obama associates at City Hall, the Chicago Park District, and the University of Chicago has largely controlled the process of where and how the center is to be built. It'll eat up much more parkland than we were first led to believe. Roads will be eliminated or rerouted and at a cost and inconvenience that remain unclear. Mayor Rahm Emanuel, the Obama Center's biggest cheerleader, has done his best to lock in Park District support for years to come, long after he leaves office in May. Sounds like a sweetheart inside Rahm to Obama deal.
Judge Laura,
how is this not a total inside job here?
Yeah, you can't believe this. This has been something that's been open to public hearings. It's been discussed. It's been decided by the district and the city. There's no due process issue here. This is something that the public has an opportunity to opine on and has been approved. And it's by no means a takings. This is still will remain parklands that belong to the city. It'll just be a fixed term agreement in which the Obama Presidential Center will use that land.
Why is it, though, that the Obamas, every time the Obamas are involved in some big financial thing, whether it's Solyndra or something, there always seems to be like some inside deal or inside job. And again, love University of Chicago, love the area, and I think a lot of people love this project. They just don't want it here. And by subverting the law, Andrew, going through to the city instead of the normal process, selling it that way, that's the way you got around the legal strictures. That's what's given people pause.
I think
Laura, that's it. Laura, that's it. Nobody has a problem with this project here in Chicago, but when you are selling this sort of land for $100 over a 99-year period, it's ridiculous, and Chicago has a history of those sorts of deals.
Time for ruling. I'm ruling for Andrew here, and it has nothing to do with politics. It's the process that it seems corrupt from to the core for me. I don't like it at all. I think it stinks to high heaven. Counselors, thank you so much. And stay right there. Some celebrities still defending Jussie Smollett. Tonight's Last Bite has the answers. Next.